When you make the decision to do what you want to do with your life, just know this: because the family and the friends in your life do not share your vision, in most cases, they will be the first person to try and talk you out of what you want to do with your life. But know this: only those that can see the invisible can do the impossible.
You have time. You have the knowledge and the willpower and the discipline to get it done.
See, sometimes we can't say, I can do that. But what we can say, that it's possible that I can have my dream as we run toward it, as we work on it day in and day out.
Why is it that we don't believe in ourselves? That as soon as things get tough in our lives, we start doubting ourselves. We start thinking that we're not gonna make it, stressing, worrying, imagining things that may go wrong in the future. We need to understand the human mind is the most powerful tool we own, but it can also be the most destructive. And we need to learn how to take control of the direction of our mind and our emotions. How bad do you want it? You've got to prove it to yourself that you want it bad enough. It's got to hurt you not to get it. And that's when you're going to learn to conquer your mind. Your mind will no longer be able to say no, because your inner heart and mind are aligned, and now nothing can stop you.
It was hard, ladies and gentlemen, and I was facing financial difficulties in my own life. I was behind on my bills and my dreams, and I'm saying to them, you can live your dream. It was hard, ladies and gentlemen. It was very difficult to pick myself up each day believing that I could do it. There were times that I doubted myself. I said, God, why is this happening to me? It was very hard. Here's what I want to say to you. For those of you that have experienced some hardships, don't give up on your dream.
There's a fight right around the corner just waiting. And you better learn how to fight.
It's about what you're saying to yourself, but it also comes with work. So whenever I was getting beat down, physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever I was going through, just saying, I would put, you can't hurt me.
If you want to be great, you want to be the baddest motherfucker ever at what you do, you're going to be misunderstood by everybody because you're going to be so fucking obsessed and so driven to get there. That's what it takes.
That's the truth.
It takes every second of your fucking life. Anybody says balance? Yeah, balance is important for a lot of fucking people. It is. But if you want to fucking go to that edge where people do not like you, don't understand you, question everything you fucking do, you've arrived. When you are misunderstood to the point where fucking people think you're psycho and you're nuts and you're this and that, why are you in the fucking gym at 1 o'clock in the fucking morning? You just got to doing an op for fucking 13, 14 hours at the Ranger School, man, at the gym. What's wrong? You will never understand what is wrong with me. And that's why I'm so fucking glad you don't. Because I'm in the right fucking spot. When people don't understand you anymore, you're in that spot of obsession and drive. Where people are like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? I don't want to talk to you, man, because you're not going to get it.
Once we achieve something, we celebrate for a long years in time. And we wonder, why don't I have drive anymore? Where's it all at? If you don't develop a routine of suffering, and suffering is not like go out and kill yourself every day, it's being uncomfortable. That keeps you hungry every day. If you live in your victories for so long and say, I'm gonna go challenge myself for 30 days or for 2 weeks or run this one marathon, and it ends, I did one marathon. Okay? That's why it leaves you. It leaves you because you haven't set up the next obstacle. Obstacles is how you grow. You must continue to have friction. Friction is where growth is at. With no friction, there's no growth. You have to call yourself out. If you're fat and you're f***ed up, I want to hear that. I don't want to hear you tap dancing around shit. And a lot of people don't want to go there. They don't want to talk about their childhood. They don't want to talk about their past. They don't want to get to the root of the problems, and then they go, why am I not getting better? Because there's a lot of shit in there you haven't dealt with, brother. You know, people go to the gym, like for instance, going through any kind of special operations school. These people go to the gym, they get big, they get jacked, they can run fast, all that shit. But the only thing they're doing is they're coding over the mind. All you're doing is building a bigger, stronger quitter. Your mind hasn't gotten any stronger because you haven't gone back in there and dealt with shit. So the second adversity comes, you're like, my God, I'm so fucking fit. What's wrong? Your mind is still soft.
You can't live very long without being injured, going through hurts and pains. Sometimes the wound heals up and there's no sign that it ever happened. But there are certain wounds that are so severe, a cut so deep, they heal up, the pain goes away, but they leave a scar. Scars from falling off a bike as a child, scars from the surgery to remove the illness, scars from the accident. There are physical scars, scars that we can see, but there are also invisible scars, scars that come from inner wounds, scarred by the divorce, scarred by what somebody said, scarred by mistakes that we made. So often we try to hide our scars. We don't see anything positive about it. It reminds us of the hurt, the sickness, the betrayal. We wish they'd go away. But we need to see our scars in a new light.
And that comes from just accepting yourself and actually instead of cursing the pain, because when you curse the pain and get angry at it, you get angry. Every cell of your being goes through that same anger. And what you want to do is just get to that peaceful place within yourself where you say, you know, when you trust in yourself, you're really trusting in the wisdom that created you, you know, and the wisdom that created you is infinite and it's formless. And so your thoughts are in that same category. Have thoughts that are aligned with that divine presence.
We become what we think about. Focus on what you want rather than focusing on what you don't want. Who do you want to be? Why are you here on this planet? You live according to the principles of love, compassion, appreciative joy, celebrating other people's successes, but how do you overcome hatred and confusion and just having a good heart? Then I think that's what happened to me. Then I started to get clear about what I like to do and how I can be of service. How can I help other people? That we were wired for success, but it's how we relate to our experience that determines whether we're chipping away or we're, you know, kind of burying that sense of wholeness that we're born with. It's just that we forget it. We don't look inside, we're looking outside. And so unless we're still and we think about it and we understand that I was born with this masterpiece, no one can give it to me or take it away. It's an inside job. And so if I look at what's right, it makes a lot of sense. So it's whether you're coming from a place of scarcity, or I would say survival mode, or coming from growth mode, which has to do with yes, I can, yes to life, and I have the capacity and the responsibility to make it different or to make it better. Having that faith, that vulnerability to just see things that are hard to see. You gotta get comfortable being uncomfortable. So can you handle the truth? It's a question, and if you can't, then if you see that, then you can say, well, if I'm gonna change, I'm gonna have to figure out how to deal with that discomfort until the point that I can see what I need to see, then I can change it. So it's the persistence of continuing to do something until you can do it is most of the work. Is just continuing to make mistakes, learn from mistakes, but the mistakes are viewed as feedback, not as I'm a failure. It's just an event, not who we are. So that error correction is really important. And when you can see it, when you attribute it to something you can learn or change, now you got faith and confidence to do it, versus if you're seeing it like, oh, I'm just not strong enough, I'm not tall enough and all of that. That's what I call the negative community telling you can't do anything, rather than saying, well, let me see what I can do. So it's like a child learning how to walk, right? Same thing.
It doesn't matter how far you might rise. At some point, you are bound to stumble, because if you're constantly doing what we do, raising the bar, if you are constantly pushing yourself higher, higher, the law of averages, not to mention the myth of Icarus, predicts that you will at some point fall. And when you do, I want you to know this, remember this, there is no such thing as failure. Failure is just life trying to move us in another direction. Now, when you're down there in the hole, it looks like failure. So this past year, I had to spoon feed those words to myself. And when you're down in the hole, when that moment comes, it's really okay to feel bad for a little while. Give yourself time to mourn what you think you may have lost. But then, here's the key. Learn from every mistake, because every experience, encounter, and particularly your mistakes are there to teach you and force you into being more of who you are.
You know, Silicon Valley tends to be liberal. Everyone knows that. And the reason for that is that there's a tremendous number of entrepreneurs there. And entrepreneurs tend to be high in openness and lower in conscientiousness. So they're creative, but they're also willing to break rules, you know, which you kind of have to do often. Hopefully not to a criminal extent, but you have to. Well, you know, it's tricky when you're trying to establish something new, because look at a company like Uber, you know, they had to bend the rules to be successful. And those companies that have rented those scooters out and put them on the streets everywhere, you know, they just kind of went ahead and did it. It's not something an orderly person would do, because they'd ask for permission, whereas the people who started these scooter rental companies just said, well, what'll happen if we put them everywhere? And the answer was, that seemed to work. But, you know, you have to have a rule-breaking proclivity in order to manage that.
History has proven that those who dare to imagine the impossible are the ones who break all the human limitations. In every field of human endeavor, whether science, medicine, sports, arts or technology, the names of the people, just now I listed some of the names of the people who imagine the impossible are engraved in our history. By breaking the limits of their imagination, they change the world. You take C.V. Raman, you take Newton, you take Einstein, you take Chandrasekhar. By breaking the limits of their imagination, they change the world.